The COVID-19 vaccines. There's a worldwide relief that we finally have multiple effective vaccines against COVID. For most of last year, here on Hard Facts, I was updating you on all the various companies and labs racing to get a vaccine out first. I told you about all the various phases of trials on all the front runners, and now they are ready for the market. This is the shortest development time for a vaccine in history. And it's due in part to some amazing innovations in vaccine technology. And that brings me to our big hard fact today. COVID 19 is the first disease against which an RNA vaccine has been proven to be effective. And that is big news for the scientific community. A lot of new ground has been broken here, and we're going to be talking about what exactly all of this means. But with anything new, there's also a lot of misunderstanding and fear and misinformation. And so part of what we'll be doing here today is setting the record straight, because we know that a lot of Nigerians need to take the vaccine. We need as many Nigerians as possible taking this vaccine when it eventually becomes available here. And we're going to be talking about that too as well. And joining me on today's show is a hero, in my opinion, of the quest for a vaccine. He's one of the scientists who worked on the trials for the Pfizer vaccine. He's an associate professor at Yale University in the United States, Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu. Thank you so much for joining us on Hard Facts. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Sandra.
Lagos, as we talk, we want to hear from you as well. Do you have questions for Dr. Ogbuagu about the COVID vaccine, so about vaccine development? Let us know what those questions are. Now, Doctor, before we get into the vaccine, let's start with you, right? How long have you been at Yale? Tell us about your work at Yale.
Yeah, so, I think it's important to mention I trained in Nigeria. I went to University of Calabar. That's where I did my medical school.
Yeah.
After which I did my specialty training in New York in internal medicine, and I did my infectious diseases fellowship, which is a subspecialty training at Yale. I've been at Yale since 2010. And as an associate professor now in the section of infectious diseases. And my career and academic focus is really around HIV medicine with regards to finding new treatments or drugs for prevention. So I run a clinical trials program. I run a large research program that deals with, multiple pharmaceuticals and just really trying to identify promising candidates for treating HIV. And so once COVID hit, we focused our work on COVID. And so I was part of the remdesivir studies where we was the first drug approved for COVID-19, which was a moment of pride for us. And also we've tested other therapies that many people have not even heard about yet, that we are still looking at the results to see if they work. And obviously, I worked with Pfizer on the COVID-19 vaccine.
Now, this is the fastest we've seen the development of vaccines for an infectious disease, and it's been truly phenomenal. What factors gave us such a fast breakthrough, Dr. Ogbuagu?
Yeah, so you're right. So, the record prior to this was, I think, the mumps vaccine, which was 4 years.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how having this done in, was it 9 months or so, because the first authorizations were probably around December, and the first trials were starting in March. The reason why this happened was really because COVID-19 galvanized the research community internationally, domestically in the US as well. We all came together. In many cases, we even left the work we were doing and laser focused. I left my HIV research for a while and really focused on COVID-19 work. And there was a lot of funding and resources available for the studies, really important. And we learned how to do things more efficiently. So, in the old times, you would do one phase of a trial, finish that, then do the next phase of a trial, finish that. But here we learned to do overlapping phases, so that once we did the phase 1 trials showing that the vaccine was safe, we felt comfortable to do the next phase, which is to see if it generated the right kind of immunity. And when we had those results, we moved straight on to test it in a larger, tens of thousands of people to see if it protected against COVID-19. So we learned efficiency. It's through collaboration. And frankly, even though messenger RNA technology, this would be the first approval for an infectious disease, actually, messenger RNA technology dates back to 1990
I
when some
see.
of the earliest trials were done there were animal studies for mRNA vaccine. So it's been a technology that has been tweaked, improved over time to the point that, we felt comfortable testing it in humans.
Can you tell me about your role in bringing the Pfizer vaccine to market? Can you explain what your role was?
Yeah, so I was the principal investigator at Yale. So we are, the final pathway to drug approval. And so, we had study protocols to, which are about recruiting patients for the clinical trials, administering the vaccines to people, monitoring safety events, assessing for COVID-19 events for safety. So safety, efficacy, and then providing the data that goes to the regulatory authorities to approve the drugs. Clinical trials are an art and a science. The science obviously is behind the product and the vaccine and, the technology, making sure it works. But there's also an art to it because you have to recruit individuals. And recruiting individuals to study was important because, as you can imagine, if you think there's skepticism about receiving the vaccine, then think about skepticism about, participating
Trying
in a
out.
clinical
Yeah.
trial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that there was diverse representation
How
so
did you
that you
get
had
people
not
to
just
agree to be a part of the trial?
So it's easy for my program because that's what we do. We do research. So we've established credibility with the communities that we serve. So
Okay.
it's, when it's like, yeah, it's another trial Dr. Newma is doing, but he's done past trials. I've participated in his past trials. I trust him. He's not going to test
Turn
the
me into a
vaccine or
toad.
a drug in me. Exactly. But it's an important point because I think that, especially, I think that, we, medical doctors, clinicians, researchers, scientists, we have to keep those relationships with the community because we need the community in drug development and vaccine development. And so it's not when you have a drug to test that you start to create those relationships. You actually want to keep those relationships that precede any work that you do. And so, it's much more easier to engage the community in research. And it takes a lot of work. We've had to do lots of educational activities, explaining to people what the phases of vaccine development are, the safeguards that are in place so that people know that you can't just test anything that carries a risk of harm. Explain to them the steps that we take to make sure that safety is assured before you're testing a large number of people, what we're looking for regarding to efficacy of a product or vaccine. It takes a lot of work, and especially for certain communities. So even in the United States, we struggle with having people of color, so this would be Latinx or Black or African American individuals participate in clinical research. That's a whole different kettle of
Understandably.
fish, if you will. Yeah,
Understandably.
exactly. So that's where the art comes in. And I think that, over time, we've learned that there's no better way than educating, engaging the public and, getting them to a point where they're likely to be more receptive to science and research.
Talk to me about the RNA vaccine. Talk to me about how it's different from the other types of vaccines that came before it.
Yeah, so there's many ways you can make vaccines. Some of the old traditional methods would include, attenuated strains. So, for if it's a viral infection, a virus that looks like one virus, or you can use the same virus and tweak it a bit so that it's not infectious, and then that's the way you give it to people to help generate immune response. So, an example would be like measles, mumps, rubella. Those are live attenuated viruses.
Okay.
And there's protein-based vaccines. So, a good example would be the influenza vaccine, where you can give people a protein-based vaccine, and it can produce immunity against the virus. But the two newer technologies were the messenger RNA and the viral vector vaccine. So when you hear about, for example, AstraZeneca vaccine or the Johnson & Johnson, those are viral vector. When you hear about Pfizer, Moderna, those are messenger RNA technology. Messenger RNA technology has certain advantages. One, is very easy to produce. Once the sequence of the virus was known, 2 days, you have a messenger RNA vaccine ready to go. It's very easy. And that's important because with some of the new variants we're talking about that you're hearing about, going on in South Africa and the UK, the new variants, you can easily produce a messenger RNA vaccine that can address new strains of the virus as they emerge. And the beauty of mRNA technology also is that because it's easy to produce, you can mass produce it. And as you can imagine, there's a global demand for vaccines. So if you can mass produce it, you can make it more available. Then down to the technology. Messenger RNA encodes for protein. Messenger RNA is the genetic code that helps your body produce proteins. Okay, it's different from DNA because that's a frequent misconception.
Good, because I was going to go there next.
Alter DNA.
I was going to go there next because we need to get that all the way very quickly. You need to explain to Lagos why an RNA vaccine cannot change your DNA, please.
Yeah, because RNA is not DNA. So that's the beauty of the technology. So RNA is what your body uses to make proteins. Okay. Now DNA is very different. DNA is your genetic structure. It's a unique part of the cell called the nucleus. So think of it as the core.
So Dr. Ogbuagu, pretend that my grandmother is listening to the show and she doesn't understand a lot of this big grammar. Could you break down for her, because she's the one who's getting messages on WhatsApp about it. So could you break down for her, why exactly an RNA cannot change your DNA?
So first of all, we should not be consuming our health information from WhatsApp, right? It's a strong, Facebook, WhatsApp, and sources of information matter. So I just want to get that message out, right? On my Twitter feed, I decided to be naughty at one point, just to express my frustration about misinformation on social media. And I said, if you need to fix a car, you go to a tailor or a seamstress, right? So when you want to learn about science and vaccines and health, you want to talk to doctors and scientists and researchers, people who know what they're talking about. So I just want to again, just let your listening public know that where you consume your health information matters. Not everything you see on social media is even true to begin with. And there's a lot of misinformation. So bottom line is that messenger RNA is very different from DNA. And the DNA is what makes you and what, does your characteristics. The messenger RNA does not even get into the parts of the body where the part of the cells where you have DNA. So it doesn't even get into there. So there's no interference with DNAs. It doesn't alter any of your genetic traits. It's just great technology that allows your body produce a protein that looks like the virus and that primes your immune system to protect you against the real virus when you're exposed to it.
Lagos, I want to hear from you as well. If you just joined in, you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and I've got Dr. Ogbuagu on the show with us today. He worked on the Pfizer vaccine. He was the principal investigator on the trials for the Pfizer vaccine. He's also an associate professor at Yale University in the United States. And he got his start, you heard him say when we started, from the University of Calabar right here in Nigeria. So Lagos, let's talk. Do you have questions for the good doctor? Go ahead and give him a run for his money. 0700-993-993-993. Ask him your questions about the virus, because they call me all the time and they ask me all these questions. And I'm a journalist. I have the answers to these questions. So we have the expert in the room now. Ask him. 0700-993-993-993. Questions about the virus, questions about the vaccines, questions about the fight against COVID. This is your chance to talk to a real-life vaccine trailblazer. We've got Martins on the line. Martins is always in transit. Martins is in transit yet again today. Hello, Martins. Thanks for calling us.
Sandra, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thanks for bringing this expert to talk to us.
Yeah.
So my question is this. My sister is in the UK and she wanted to take the vaccine. There's this thing they told them that if you know you are of childbearing age or you want to have children, you should not take this vaccine. So they told them in their office, and some people who are planning to have children soon were exempted from taking the vaccine. So my question is, if the vaccine does not change DNA, why is it that people who still want to have children were asked to exempt from taking the vaccine?
All right, Martin, thank you very much. Dr. Ogbuagu, he's asking why pregnant pregnant women and women who want to have children are told to not take the vaccine.
Yeah, so first of all, it's not entirely accurate that women were told not to take the vaccine. I think there was some guidance by the World Health Organization, and I think the message there is that, yes, there is some data that's not available in pregnant, not just pregnant but breastfeeding women, but that the risk and benefits of the vaccine should be discussed with their physicians. So let me just address a few things. Now, for pregnant women are at higher risk of complications, certain complications with COVID. We're finding that pregnant women are having higher risk of things like blood clots that can happen. But those who become sick, compared to women their age, pregnant women have a 4 times higher chance of being on a ventilator, a 2 times higher chance of dying compared to women the same age when their pregnancy outcomes, they have higher rates of needed cesarean section, higher rates of preterm birth, and the babies also go into the neonatal ICU when they're born. So the important thing to highlight here is that pregnant women are uniquely at risk for COVID-19. And so when you're talking about risk benefit, it's pretty clear that you really want to expose pregnant women to the vaccine. To date, we haven't identified any major concerns with the pregnancy and the vaccines. We had about 23 women, even though we didn't want to include pregnant women in the Pfizer vaccine study, we eventually had about 20-something women who got pregnant all through the study before they got the vaccine. In between those 1 and 2, after those 2, they got pregnant, because I know some people are saying there's some myths around the vaccines
you won't be able to get
infertility,
pregnant,
which is aggravating. Okay, so people got pregnant after they received the 2 doses of vaccines. So I want to make that clear. Now that we've rolled out the vaccine in the US, we already have almost 15,000 pregnant women who've received either the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. And of course, we're following those women, but so far the data is quite encouraging. So again, I think that the benefits of having a vaccine that protects you against getting sick and having complications as a pregnant woman are important. The last point I want to make is, women make up a huge number of the healthcare workforce, right? So a lot of nurses are women, and they're on the front lines of caring for patients. So there are certain women who could be pregnant who are at high risk of acquiring COVID because they're medical professionals, they're doctors, they're nurses, they're working in health systems. And so it's important that in spite of some of the limited data that we have, but because of the good safety record so far, I would recommend that pregnant women, get the vaccine. Now, if you're very low risk for COVID-19, which is unusual because there's a lot of community transmission, so I don't know how anybody can say low risk. You can have a conversation with your doctor about the risk and benefits.
Okay, we've got a question from Aroma, who is in Snake Island, and he's asking to ask you if you have taken the vaccine, Dr. Ogbuagu.
Yeah. So okay, I'll answer that question in 2 ways. So yes, I took vaccine. My receiving the vaccine was televised nationally in the US. I was on a national TV station and took my first dose of vaccine. I took my second dose of vaccine in the first week of January, and I'm doing just fine. And I'm an infectious disease doctor. I care for COVID patients. I'm on the ward all the time, both in my research work and my clinical work. I'm exposed to COVID patients. So, I'm just so happy that I've received the 2 doses of vaccine. The side effect I had was a little bit of pain in my arm that happened a few hours after the vaccine, lasted about a day, went away. I didn't take anything. I know you call it Panadol in Nigeria, but I didn't take those kind of things. I didn't need to take any of that, and it was well worth it to get the vaccine. So again, the point I want to make is, some of the conspiracy theories about the vaccine are it causes infertility, it's targeted against, Black and minority communities, but think about it. If there was this big conspiracy theory about a vaccine that did harms, how can it be that there's a huge appetite to receive the vaccine? So in the US now, I think there's been about we've almost had 50 million vaccinations distributed. Yes, almost 30 million doses, have been administered to people. And in fact, we're actually finding that, and we're not happy with this, that majority of the vaccines are being taken up by white people. And that, Black and minority communities, Latinx individuals, are not getting the vaccines as much. So if people wanted to harm the Black race, would they be rushing to take the vaccine? So there's a lot of conspiracy theories there that don't make any sense. And I think that all it does is it keeps us away from benefiting from science. Think about the role vaccine plays in our life. Think about the hepatitis B vaccine, the measles vaccine you got when you were a kid, polio vaccines, and how it has made very, significant either life-threatening or disabling diseases, has really made them disappear, or at least significantly made the numbers down. So again, with the COVID-19 vaccines, history repeats itself. You could almost record how people are reacting now to how they reacted to the first vaccines that were produced. History repeats itself. But I hope that over time, as more and more people take the vaccine itself, that people can then, and we're actually finding that more and more people are ready to receive the vaccine as they see more and more people take it.
Let's take a few more calls. Lagos 0700-993-993. I have a lot of messages on WhatsApp, but you can send yours as well. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. Don't forget that we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can watch live and leave your comments on Facebook and YouTube, and then we'll take them as we go along. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3. YouTube is Nigeria Info FM. If you missed any part of this conversation, the first half, the first 15 minutes, if you can't be in your car for the rest of it, you can simply wait until the podcast is ready and then listen back again on the podcast. Femi is in Surulere. Hello, Femi.
Hello.
How
Sandra.
are you? Welcome. Go ahead.
I'm very well. Yes, I have a question about vaccines and observation. I want to know what difference it would make between a communicable disease and a non-communicable disease. For example, polio vaccines, you don't get polio from another person, but you could get coronavirus from another person. So if I've taken the vaccine, for example, and I touch a surface, and is it that I won't be able to transmit that coronavirus because I've taken the vaccine, or I could still transmit coronavirus? It's just that it wouldn't affect me, because the mentality would be, in this part of the world, we have this funny thinking that I'm already protected, so I could misbehave. So would it be that I would still be able to transmit the disease to other people, and it will affect them, and they would probably have issues subsequently?
All right, Femi. Thank you for calling. Dr. Ogbuagu.
Yeah, thank you, Femi. You asked important questions. So I just want to clarify something. When we talk about non-communicable diseases, we're talking about things like diabetes, hypertension, and things that are not associated with infectious agents that can be transmitted. So it's not accurate that polio is not a contagious illness. It is transmitted, and it's transmitted by food and water. Okay, so it's fecal-orally transmitted. So just important to put that out there. Okay, so like coronavirus, it can be passed from person to person, and both polio and COVID-19 are vaccine preventable diseases. And one of the reasons why polio has been eradicated in many parts of the world is because of vaccines. And it's one of the very early vaccines that ever became available to the world. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that. Now you asked an even more important question.
But before you answer that question, because we need to take a break, unfortunately. So I will say hold that thought. After the break, you go on to answer that question that he asked. Lagos, if you just joined the show, welcome. You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, and we have Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu on the show with us. He is one of the scientists who worked on the trials for the Pfizer vaccine. He's an associate professor at Yale University in the United States. He's joining us from the United States today on the show. And you can watch this interview on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3, YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. If for some reason you can't be in your car for the rest of the interview, or your house, or wherever you have to leave, don't worry. It will be available as a podcast after the interview, so you can go and listen again. Share with your friends. Tell them that these vaccines will not change their DNA, like the good doctor has said to us. Don't go away, Legals. We'll be right back.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, Oga and Madam, you don't see the room now. Make I show you the toilet where you go to share with other neighbors.
Na the toilet be this?
What's the happen?
Oga agent, you mean say na general toilet clean come white like this, eh?
Yes, now. See, what's in the use. Take cleaner and kill the yama germs come out.
Hypo toilet cleaner? Wow.
Wash your toilet at least once a week with Hypo Toilet Cleaner to keep it sparkling clean and gem-free. Available in sachet for 35 naira only.
Madam, now 2 years landlord one collect.
We go pay for 6 years.
Say you're planning a trip to Dubai, a romantic getaway, business, family vacation, leisure. Let me give you 4 reasons to fly with us at Airpeace. Airpeace flies to Dubai via Sharjah International Airport. And guess what? You get to Dubai city centre in 15 minutes. How? Airpeace will get you there in style and class. I mean, talk about limos and cozy saloon cars with no extra cost to you. Let's not forget you spend a much shorter time going through immigration and baggage claim at Sharjah International Airport. You basically get to the city centre faster than if you landed in DXB. When you fly Airpeace, you enjoy a much lower airfare like none other in our luxurious Boeing 777 with a hospitable cabin crew. Now tell me again why you wouldn't fly Airpeace. What are you waiting for? Oh yeah, visit www.flyairpeace.com or download our mobile app and allow us to give you the Dubai experience starting with us.
Something big is about to happen to you on radio. I bet you never saw it coming. The dynamic duo joined together by not just radio, but everything in between.
It's more than just a radio experience. It's an experience of a lifetime.
What's up, Lagos?
It's the feel of Lagos. From the mainland to the island. On your number one station of talk, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Come, let's talk.
Tune in every day, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a whole brand new What's Up Lagos with the Techers. I am Collins.
I am Andrea. Check it.
Running a growing business is not easy. It's all hands on deck for me and my small team of 12. I know that to get the best out of them, their health must be in tip-top shape. But most HMOs I approached said I have to have at least 20 staff before I can get on a plan. They don't cater to small businesses. Then I found Reliance HMO. And just like that, they got my team and I registered seamlessly. What's even mind-blowing is that their rates are flexible and affordable while not compromising on quality care. I have not received any complaints from my team since they got on board. The service is that great. Indeed, you can rely on Reliance HMO for your small businesses and its healthcare needs.
Visit reliancehmo.com/corporate or call 0700-7354-2623 to get a quote for your small business and still enjoy reliable healthcare today. Reliance HMO. You can rely on us.
At ShopRite, you'll find everything you need more. Buy a pack of 24 330 ml Maltina drinks at 3,299 naira 99 kobo and chicken twin packs at 1,599 naira per kilogram. Buy your recharge cards at Entil points within the store. Check our website www.shoprite.com.ng for more deals. All prices valid till the 7th of February 2021. ShopRite, lower prices you can trust always.
Guy, what's in the make you scatter house like this, eh? I beg, you help me see my Airtel SIM. I carry and give Shade yesterday, but you know they use him again now. Yay! You don't carry my bonus give landlord picking. Now today you go pack out. On top Airtel SIM?
Yes, so if you don't reach 15 days where you never use your Airtel SIM, go find them now. Because why? Obonga will full on top of. Hey, get 2,000 naira airtime plus extra 200 MB for just 200 naira. The more you recharge, the more you are woofo. To begin enjoy this awoof, just dial *241*7#. Terms and conditions do.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Need money? Rent money. Visit rentmoney.com or call 0700 5500. Need money? Rent money.
It's a new day, a new beginning. As you prepare for the day ahead, just anything is not enough for a delightful, healthy start.
Hollandia Eva milk, right nutrients for a healthy breakfast.
Uncle Dentist, what are cavities? And how does Colgate protect my teeth from cavities? Does it use Kung Fu?
No, dear. Most tooth pains are caused by tooth holes called cavities. When you brush daily with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, its expert formula locks natural calcium in our teeth and helps protect them from cavities.
It's time to upgrade to the world's most chosen toothpaste, Colgate, because Colgate locks calcium in.
Keeps cavities out!
Colgate is recommended by the Nigerian Dental Association.
You get to win money. You get to win 10,000 Naira cash on the Just a Minute game show. Call into any of our shows: The Morning Crossfire, WhatsApp Lagos, The Sunny Side, and Hard Fact. Answer as many questions as possible in 60 seconds, and you stand a chance to win 10,000 Naira. Winner will be announced on Hard Fact. Just a Minute, the game show for everyone, right here on your number one station for talk, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Powered by Creditville.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
One station for talk. Let's talk.
It's 5:33 Lagos. You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. Let's see if we can get Femi's question out of the way and then keep talking. If you just joined the show, you're listening to us have a conversation with Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu. Dr. Ogbuagu is an associate professor at Yale University in the U.S. He was also a principal investigator who worked on the trials for the Pfizer vaccine. Dr. Ogbuagu, you remember Femi's question, yes? He wanted to know if he can still infect people even after being vaccinated. Is it a situation where he's protected but those around him are not? Or is it a situation where he's protected and he cannot infect people?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Femi, and let me try to address that. So the results you're hearing a lot of are about the ability of the vaccines to protect against symptomatic disease. So some studies for the Pfizer vaccine, it compared everyone with symptoms regardless of being mild all the way through severe. Some of the more recent studies have looked at only a moderate and severe disease. But the efficacy is so high. If you think about the efficacy that vaccines typically have, having vaccines that are 80%, 95% effective are just really blockbuster for infectious disease. So just really want to put it in context for you how highly effective these COVID vaccines are, to be honest. So it protects against disease. I think the relevance even more for Nigeria would be if you get a vaccine that can protect you. Let's forget even asymptomatic disease. We'll talk about that next. If you can get a disease that protects from getting really sick, remember, in a low resource setting, we don't always have ventilators for everyone. We don't always have enough oxygen supply, right? So if you get a vaccine that can protect you from getting sick, that's a big thing that can save your life. So just want to highlight that. Now, there's not everybody that has COVID has symptoms. And so you can have what we call asymptomatic infection, which means you carry the virus, but it's not making you sick. You don't have a fever, you don't have cough, but you have the virus and you can transmit that virus to someone. We don't have enough of that data for the vaccines yet. We have some signals. For example, the Moderna vaccine, which is a messenger RNA vaccine, decreases that by about 67%. Okay, so it by 67%, it decreases the risk of asymptomatic infection. The other trials, including the Pfizer trial, we're trying to gather the data. I have no doubt that the vaccines stop people from carrying the virus. The question is by how much? It's not a matter of if it does, it's a matter of by how much. So I just wanted to make that point really clear. The last thing I want to say is another way we can all protect ourselves, because we are talking about protecting ourselves and protecting infecting others, is this concept of herd immunity. Herd immunity means that if enough of us get vaccinated and have immunity against the virus, then we can even protect those who are unvaccinated. But to achieve that, you need at least 70% of people within a community, a city, a state, a town, your villa, right? Enough people to be vaccinated such that when the virus tries to enter the community, it can't, because there's many people that are immune, such that even the people who are not immune can be protected by those who are immune. That's herd immunity. So my message here is that we can have highly effective vaccines, but not reap the benefits from them because we just don't have enough people vaccinated. to protect each other.
Now, there's some concern that the B1351 strain, the first one seen in South Africa, may be resistant to the vaccine because it has a mutation on the spike protein the vaccine codes for. Do you guys have a plan for that?
Yes. So there's two important data we have. So yes, first of all, yes, I am concerned about the B1351, the 501 variant 2. It has different names. We try not to call the variants by places because it's stigmatizing. We didn't like the China virus, so let's not call it South Africa variant. We can call it the variant identified in South Africa first. So the messenger RNA vaccines, we found that the ability of the antibodies from the vaccine generates to neutralize the virus is reduced, but not to the point where we think that it has lost effectiveness against the virus. Let me make that clear.
Okay.
However, two new studies have come out from other vaccines, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and Novavax, that have shown that the degree of protection against disease for the B1351, the one identified in South Africa, is less. I'll give you an example. So for Novavax, they found about 89% effectiveness against the virus, but it was 49% for the variant. For Johnson & Johnson, it was about 66% overall and 57% against the variant. So the vaccines work, but not to the same degree. And so in response to this, the vaccine manufacturers, I know for sure that Pfizer and Moderna are now developing a newer version of the vaccine that should work against the variant. You wouldn't need a full vaccination series, so you wouldn't need the 2 doses all over again. It's possible that all you would need is a booster shot, which means just a top-up shot, a second shot with a new variant to protect that. But we're just going to have to see. Now, here's the last message I want to make. As long as this epidemic continues, or pandemic continues, epidemic in Nigeria, pandemic in the world, as long as it continues, we don't control it, the virus will continue to change. And when it continues to change, there's going to be more mutations. So if you think we have a problem now, give it a few more months, there's going to be even new mutations and new variants emerging. So the message here is that the sooner we can eradicate this, the sooner we can vaccinate people, the sooner we can halt this pandemic, that's the sooner we can overcome that problem with the virus changing so much so that it affects our treatments and our vaccines.
Okay, let's take more questions from you, Lagos. 0700-993-993-993. WhatsApp is available as well. And on WhatsApp, we have a question from Chijoke in Ikorodu who says, what do you think about our traditional medicine? Should African governments spend huge sums on research for us to find homegrown drug solutions to our medical problems instead of always importing? What do you say to that, Dr. Ogbuagu?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that, there is a role for traditional medicine. We can't, there are certain things that, our moms use and our grandmoms use that act like they work because we have that experience with generations over time.
I like how you said that, act like they work.
Okay, but herein lies the problem, is that we haven't created, you talk about me running clinical trials, right? We haven't generated the data or the evidence that they work. So for example, sometimes we don't even know what dosages we should use because remember, every drug can help and can harm. So that you need to use the right amount, sometimes different ones for older people, younger kids, etc. You need to see if the benefits outweigh the risks of whatever intervention you're using. So some of the so-called traditional medicines we have not even been rigorously evaluated to see if they really work for the conditions they are touted for. And then, this gives me an opportunity to really, state that one of the things that we should learn from this COVID-19 pandemic is just how dependent Nigeria and Africa is on the West for so many things, for testing capacity, for vaccine development, and I think that this should be an opportunity for us to ask ourselves very hard questions. How much are we investing in research and development? How much are we investing in science, technology, engineering, medicine? This starts from primary school, secondary school, making sure that they're good teachers, that they're labs. We have talent in Nigeria, and we just need to create the enabling environment for scientists and researchers and just utilizing the talent we have to benefit our own people. So it's really, really important to emphasize that. So yes, maybe there are traditional medicines that could work, but we just haven't rigorously evaluated them. And so there's potential missed opportunities for some of the remedies we have. But what I won't recommend is using a medication that's been touted to have a benefit when it has not been evaluated. That's what I don't believe in. So let's apply science to the local remedies or treatments that we have when it's successfully scientifically shown to work. Then I'll be willing to as a physician recommend that for a patient, or even potentially use it myself. Now, the other point I want to make is that there's also a lot of nonsense online around, zinc, vitamin C, saltwater gargles, hot water, heat,
lemon,
and all kinds of things, lemon, things that are considered to be immune stimulants, or if you're sick, use this and it will cure COVID. Many of those have not been evaluated, and I cannot recommend any of those. There are certain things that you should do to keep your immune system healthy: reduce levels of stress, sleep well, maintain a balanced diet. Okay, those things, they seem too common sense, but they're critically important because they keep your immune system in balance. If you have a medical condition like HIV or diabetes and things like that, make sure that you're taking your medications, your disease is controlled, and that puts you in the best position so that if you're faced with an infection, your body is in the right frame to be able to fight off the infection. But a lot of the things that you're reading on social media, a lot of things that are out there suggesting that there are remedies for COVID, unfortunately, have not been studied, and I cannot recommend them.
I've got a question from Ezekiel Anthony from Ogijo, who says, after taking the vaccine, does it mean someone will not be able to contact the disease or what? Well, that's a very solid question, Doctor, because we've just heard that Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson, has had COVID antibodies disappear from her system after 10 months, right? So these vaccines, of course, they've not had long-term trials of more than a year. And we're seeing some reports of survivors, talking about the antibodies disappearing after months. So is there a chance? Does this raise concerns about long-term efficacy of vaccines? Is there a chance that we end up having to retake a new vaccine after a few years, like a flu shot?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and it allows me to address something. So there are two ways to develop immunity to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, or the virus that causes COVID, right?
Okay.
Two ways, two pathways. One is natural immunity. Natural immunity is if you fall sick and you have COVID and you recover, you have antibodies, right? That hopefully protect you against getting it again, okay? And then the other type of immunity is you don't get COVID, but you get a vaccine, and the vaccine makes your body produce antibodies that protect you. One of the reasons why we need vaccines is that we found that the natural immunity, the antibodies people have, like, Tom Hanks' wife, for example, after they recover from COVID, is that those antibodies disappear pretty quickly, and it's very disappointing. So we learned earlier on that even people who survive and recover from COVID, that their level of protection is very short-lived. It's about 3-4 months, and then reinfections start to happen. Okay. In fact, we're learning with the new variants, for example, the one circulating in South Africa, that people who had COVID before are being infected at the same rate as people who didn't have COVID with the new variant. It's almost as if the antibodies made no difference in their risk of reinfection with the new variant.
Interesting.
And so that's why the vaccine-induced immunity does better than the natural immunity. So you're better off getting antibodies from the vaccine than getting sick with the virus and have antibodies that will disappear over time. Now, we're doing the study I'm running, we're looking at people all the way through 2 years and checking their antibody levels to see what happens over time. We're starting to have 4-month data, getting on 6-month data, and the antibody levels look good, and they look better than the antibody levels with natural infection. So what I can say for now is that the vaccine immunity is better than natural immunity, and this is exactly one of the reasons why you need to take the vaccines, to reduce your risk of getting the disease.
Let's take one more call. Lagos, the number to call is 0700-993-993-993. That's the last call we'll take on the show, and then we'll let the good doctor go. If you just joined us, you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I am Sandra Ezekwesili. We've got Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu on the show. He is one of the scientists who worked on the trials for the Pfizer vaccine, principal investigator, actually, for the Pfizer vaccine. And he's also an associate professor at Yale University in the U.S. He started off from the University of Calabar and then moved on to bigger things. We've got Dayo. Dayo is at the airport. Hi, Dayo. Thank you for calling us.
Oh, good evening, Sandra.
Good evening. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to Dr. Onyema for the digging over there. Well, Dr. Onyema touched on antibodies.
Okay.
So from what he said, it's clear that the antibodies produced by the human body, perhaps they don't stay for so long.
Yeah.
So even the vaccine stimulates immunization actively, which means the antibodies will still be produced by the body. So I just want to ask, the coronavirus vaccine, do they only provide immunity active, or are there vaccines that provide immunity passively? I mean, vaccines that already have pre-formed antibodies.
Okay. Thank you, Dayo, for calling. Dr. Ogbuagu.
I didn't hear him clearly, so if you don't mind just telling me what his question was. I know he was asking about antibodies.
Yes, he was asking if there were vaccines that provide the full antibodies at the same time, or if you'd have to retake it again, something along those lines, because I didn't quite hear him as well.
So again, I want to emphasize what I said, that for the antibodies that are developed after having the virus, those don't tend to last long, unfortunately. And I'm saying that the antibodies that the vaccine produces or elicits or generates will do much better than natural immunity, and that the data we have at least 4 months going on 6 months out are that the antibody levels look good. And they're at a level we think that should continue to protect individuals. So again, that's why I think if you have a choice, you really want to get the vaccine to protect against getting the disease, because even if you got sick, you still have a decent chance of reinfection. So I hope that clarifies that question.
Someone's asking how come we've done this so fast and we still don't have a vaccine for HIV?
So HIV is really annoying because it's, the vaccine work for HIV has gone on for 4 decades. And each attempt has failed. There are actually ongoing trials now for HIV, but one of the 3 trials, you've probably heard about Uhambo and other trials for HIV, haven't really protected people, frankly. So part of it is that HIV, unlike coronavirus, replicates a lot. HIV can make 10 billion copies a day. Wow. And some viruses have a lot of diversity so that the genetic sequences don't look the same, even between some of the strains. So it's been very, very challenging to develop a vaccine. But that said, now that we've tested new technologies for COVID-19 and RNA technology and messenger RNA vaccines are very interesting, you can actually include multiple targets against the virus in the same vaccine so that you can make the vaccine target 3 different parts of the virus as a strategy, And so I think some of the lessons we've learned from COVID-19 may serve us well for HIV, but HIV has been really, really challenging. Another thing that's really annoying about HIV is that, unlike coronavirus, HIV hides in the cells. Not all of HIV replicates, so some of it are virus that you can attack, but some of it are hidden inside the body's own cells. And the only way you can get rid of the virus is destroying the body's cells. And you can't do that, right? Because, so part of it is just the characteristics of the virus, the fact that it establishes latency, it hides itself in human cells that you can't destroy without causing a lot of damage. And the fact that the virus is very diverse, replicates a lot. So getting rid of it is challenging.
Hey, but on the plus side, we've got shots now instead of medication that you have to take every day. Now you can take 1 shot for the entire month, and that means 12 shots for the entire year. The world has been so focused on COVID-19, we didn't pause to celebrate what a huge advancement that is.
Absolutely. So you're talking about long-acting therapy. So
Yeah.
the two injectables, the medications are cabotegravir and rilpivirine, so two HIV drugs. And yes, it's such a great tool in the arsenal because some people struggle with taking a pill every day. I
Yeah.
have many patients who struggle with that, and over many years, the level of adherence or compliance to medication drops. It's just so nice to see a two-drug intramuscular injection combination that can be used. Now, just to be clear, it's approved for people who are on tablets and have suppressed the virus to switch them from pills to the
Injections, yeah.
It's not quite yet approved for starting therapy. So this would be a switch option for those who are on treatment. It's not quite yet ready for people who are starting treatment who are newly diagnosed.
Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu has been very kind with his time. Thank you so much for talking to us on Hard Facts, and thank you for the work you're doing on the front lines fighting COVID. And we do hope you can come back on the show when we have more questions, and have a very good... What time is it there?
It's almost 12 noon in the afternoon.
All
And
right.
we had a heavy snowstorm, so we have a lot of digging out to do.
Okay, so happy digging then.
All right, thank you for having me. And just again, hello Nigeria, hello my people. Stay safe. The pandemic is still raging.
All right, Lagos, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I'd like to give you a chance to win 10,000 Naira on the show. So how about you give me a call if you want to play Just a Minute? And yes, you can be sure that some of the things that we talked about with Dr. Ogbuagu will feature on Just a Minute today. I am Sandra Ezekwesili. The number to call is 0700-993-993. Let's take a very quick break, listen to our sponsors, and then get right into giving you that money courtesy Creditville.
Salary earner and experiencing salary delays. In need of school fees, loan, or house rent? Does your business need expansion and you've got no money? Do you need a car or equipment for personal or business use? Worry no more. With Creditville Auto Lease and flexible loan products, you are just a call away from achieving your financial goal. Simply dial 0805-510-0010. You can also send us an email via info@creditville.ng or log on to www.creditville.ng. Creditville, financing you for a good life.
All right, so the record you need to beat is 6. Somebody called on the Morning Crossfire and answered 6 correctly. So if you're the lucky person who beats that number, you get to go home with 10,000 Naira. Hello, thanks for calling us. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name?
Ladi.
Your name is?
Ladi.
Ladi.
Yes.
Like Ladi?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so when you win, stay on the line so that we can get your details, okay? After answering, don't hang up, okay?
Okay.
Which state did the PTF criticize for not forwarding any test results or building isolation centers?
Kogi State.
What does PTF stand for?
Presidential Task Force.
Who
on
is the
COVID-19.
Speaker of the Lagos House of Assembly?
Uda Shirobasa.
The Communications Minister has extended the NIN SIM integration deadline until what month?
For, I think, 8 weeks.
What month?
That is the, I think, March.
Which ministry referred to the NIN SIM integration exercise as a super spreader event?
Come again, please.
Which ministry referred to the NIN SIM integration exercise as a super spreader event?
Ministry of Health.
For which university does Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu work?
Yale.
What did you say?
Yale.
Okay.
YALE.
For which COVID vaccine did Dr. Ogbuagu supervise clinical trials?
COVID-19. Pfizer.
Congratulations.
Good night.
You are our winner today. Well done. Stay on the line. Don't hang up. I hope you do enjoy your money. Stay on the line. Don't hang up. All right. Okay. Let's listen to our sponsors one more time. Don't go away.
Do you need to meet up your goals for the year? Then here's the good news. Goals are easily achieved by choosing Creditsville as a reliable credit assistance. Creditsville is accessible and reliable at all times. With Creditsville, interest rates are affordable, repayment plan is flexible, disbursement is processed within 24 hours. These and many more are the reasons why you should choose Creditsville as your accessible and reliable